Hey guys, this is Python Backend interview series, and today we will learn about CORS or cross origin resource sharing. Let's understand it with a real world problem. Suppose we have a project whose front end domain is fe.domain.com and backend is api.domain.com. Now let's suppose our front end needs to access the backend API for sign up at api.domain.com/api/signup. Our front end uses a browser to send a request to our backend. The browser sends the request to the backend at api.domain.com/api/signup. The backend processes the request and sends a response back to the browser, and browser allows fe.domain.com to access the backend's response. Now suppose another frontend or domain like malicious.com or spam.com uses the browser to send a request to our backend signup API at api.domain.com/api/signup. Think for a moment. Will the browser share our backend API with any random domain like malicious.com or spam.com? Should our backend allow malicious.com or spam.com to access the signup API? This is when CORS comes into action, and the browser blocks the response from malicious.com accessing our backend signup API. CORS is a browser security mechanism by which a browser allows or blocks different domains from accessing resources from another region like our backend APIs. Let's understand it with an example. A domain, say malicious.com, uses a browser to send request to our backend APIs. Browser sends the request to our backend at api.domain.com/api/signup. Backend receives the request and process it and send back the response to browser. Browser analyzes the response headers, which includes CORS info for allowed regions. If malicious.com is in the allowed CORS regions in our backend configurations, the browser will give access to malicious.com. If CORS headers do not include malicious.com, then browser blocks the response for malicious.com. Let's take a look at some keynotes. By default, CORS is a browser security mechanism and the browser handles it. The backend's role is only to enable a certain domain like fe.domain.com, and the browser decides to block other regions for our backend based on our backend's response headers. By default, backend systems like Django and Flask process requests from other domains like malicious.com, but browsers block the response unless CORS headers allow those domains. For complex requests, the browser normally sends a pre-flight request to other domains like our backend to verify the enabled regions, then sends the actual request if domain is in the allowed regions. If we want to block a random domain from sending requests to our backend, we can write a custom middleware for CORS. This way we can block unallowed regions at the middleware level before processing the request. But this depends on our project requirements and whether we need to add an extra layer of security or not.